Good afternoon, everyone. I hope there's still a few people left. It's been an extremely exciting day, telling from all the fantastic sessions. I think what I'm going to try to do today is probably, try to tie it all up because this has been an exciting conversation on circular economy, particularly in Africa. But I guess as we all know, with everything new and exciting, is the need to be more thorough around the capacity that is required, to make this happen. So my presentation today is going to be talking to the digital innovation ecosystem on the African continent, with an attempt to try and use that to explain how we can sort of leverage the emerging innovation ecosystem on the continent to drive progress within the circular plastic economy on the continent as well. For those who may be following, what is happening on the African continent, you probably see that there's a serious and growing interest in using digital transformation to scale some of the critical sectors of economies across the continent. And the thinking here is that, as the economists will say, without technical efficiency, you cannot produce real growth or superior outcome, whether it's within a business or within any economy. You can trace this all the way back to the Cobb-Douglas theory on growth. And I think this is becoming more obvious because of the kind of technologies that we have today. We've seen application of science and technology in growing societies throughout the different revolutions that we've been through. But I think this particular stage we're in is quite critical because of the shape of the kind of technologies we have. The ability to leapfrog development across critical sectors is quite well documented and strong as well. The opportunity they give us to connect humans to humans or connect humans to machine or machines to machine, but also the opportunity for us to process data as well at a scale that we've never been able to before. This is now making it possible for so many things to happen, and Africa is not late. We're not a late comer to that. I think there's significant adoptions that we're seeing in terms of how to use digital technology, but also technology and science more generally to leapfrog development. You can already see this in a number of critical sectors in agriculture. You see really smart startups doing exciting things across the continent in public health, in manufacturing or infrastructure, but also in things like even logistics as well. Technology is beginning to drive significant progress. But for that to happen, there's a need for a strong innovation systems, which some people may call innovation ecosystem, depending on where you're coming from. And the traditional thinking within the development space, but also the academic space around this is typically situated within what you would call the national innovation system, which requires that you have a strong combination of organizations and institutions coming together to help to build a capacity, but also strengthen the ability of innovation to happen in any society. So people will tell you, as most people on the call are from academic institutions, that research institutions are a major part of that. Universities play a significant role in the capacity of society to innovate. Industries have roles to play, whether it's private organizations or large, small scale businesses, but also investors as well do have a significant role to play. But in Africa, we're seeing a different kind of innovation ecosystem. For those who know, and what is, because we don't have the luxury, on the continent to leapfrog development across all the critical elements of what you expect in an innovation ecosystem. You find that what we're seeing on the continent are what you may call technology hubs or intermediaries. These are organizations in different parts of the continent that are beginning to drive and encourage innovation. And these organizations, for those who have been following, you see them also playing a major role in the circular plastic economy. One of the well-known startups that has been talked about a lot in different examples used in presentation here was incubated by CCOB, which is the organization that I work for instance. And I think there's another organization on this list who is also a partner in this project as well. So you're seeing these organizations supporting the application of technology, but also creative ideas in solving problems that are critical to the African continent, which means that the shape of the innovation systems and ecosystem you're seeing on the continent is different from the typical one you find in pretty much well-established economies. But also even those economies are beginning to change as well. And this is why some work in the work that we do, we've actually proposed that Africa should be thinking more towards what we call the network approach to innovation ecosystem, which is saying, as against waiting until we have all the different critical elements of the traditional innovation systems, that we can use a network approach to leapfrog development, but also to leapfrog the introduction of innovation in solving critical issues in our society. And as you can see today, even within the circular plastic economy, it's still it's an emerging area, an emerging kind of conversation on the African continent. If you want to wait for all the traditional innovation ecosystem to be able to support development within the circular plastic economy, it's going to take us a long time before the policy will catch up, before universities will catch up. But what we're seeing today is that through the application of network, we can unlock opportunities and relationships with the likes of, De Montfort University, Aston University, Warwick, the sort of Chatham House, folks who are part of this project, for instance, and their thinking and know-how can come into how we start to think of, stimulating innovation within the circular plastic economy in Africa. And this is the same thing you find in so many other sectors as well. And this has been driven by the fact that knowledge in the world we live in today is really located in a web of relationships. It's no longer the case that you have to go to particular places before you can access knowledge. If you're part of a significant network, you can unlock the sort of knowledge that typically will be difficult for you to unlock. But also knowledge today is transmitted more within networks. It's not something that is exclusive to, say, a unique academic institution. We all know how innovation is now more open as against being closed, so you don't have to be part of a special research and development lab to have access to knowledge. There are certain networks that you can become and be part of, and you begin to gain significant access to knowledge. Team presented this project, which is focused on, creating extruders and making filaments, 3D printed filament locally in Africa, but also transferring the knowledge on how we can use things like that to start to meet some demands while also contributing to the circular plastic economy. Those kind of know-hows, they come from within network. But also more importantly, in this day and age, the rapid proliferation of information and knowledge as well. I don't have to now be a graduate of MIT to be able to participate in the world of innovation today. The information is now readily available. I think what is now scarce is the creative confidence to be able to apply information that we have access to today. And these are some of the reasons why this new thinking is justified and is being seen as the path to building a strong innovation ecosystem on the African continent. And we believe that it also provides the opportunity and path to collective prosperity. So not just for the continent alone, but countries and continents that we partner with, the allies that we're on the same journey for driving a better world. So this is why we walk around proposing something that is called the distributed innovation system as against national innovation system. And this is the thinking that we believe is now shaping how we think of building innovation capacity on the continent. We believe that this way of thinking will enable and strengthen the ability to form networks. If countries are more intentional, the kind of opportunities that we form within Ditch network, whether UKRI is funding it or not, is something that should continue, because this sort of network would help to unlock the opportunities that we want to see. We also see thinkings of this sort would help to eliminate barriers to access to innovation, but also membership to who can participate in new thinking. Things like 3D printing, for instance, is not something that should be exclusive to certain countries, but when you're embedded in this sort of approach, you can easily access this modern technology and knowledge that you can use to leapfrog opportunities within this space. But ultimately as well, we think it provides that platform where everyone can mutually benefit. What's the implication of this for the circular plastic economy? I'm sure you will ask. And this is what it is. If you apply the same thinking around innovation systems, then you bring it down to the sectorial thinking around innovation systems, which is something, again, that is quite popular among development practitioners, but also academia within this space as well. You start to see that the trend we're seeing within the CPE space in Africa mirrors this kind of thinking, where you see that the bulk of people that are driving the activities that you can see so far, and even in the case of what we've done within this project, are more what you may call the actors and the networks. That is what is driving the growth and thinking around CPE at the minute, where you see a lot of actors, especially private sector organizations, startups, who are going out of their way to create new ideas and new approaches, but also new solutions to plastic waste management, but using it in such a way that they use it to create economic value. But you also see network as well, the circular economy network. You see even Ditch Plastic is an example. So you start to see more networks being formed to drive this agenda. And a lot of these things are coming even without the right policies in place. But even as we say that as well, you're seeing more institutions, and within institutions comes regulations and policy. Even though we're still catching up on that front, there's a whole lot of that are beginning to build on the African continent as well. So you start to see a strong innovation ecosystem around CP. But one last thing which I'd like to talk about, I think is very relevant for the audience of this workshop, is actually the third part of the thinking around sectorial system of innovation, which is knowledge and technological domains. When you look at the progress so far, it is not very pronounced that the activities are being led by perhaps technological advancement on the continent. Of course, you can narrow some things down to the fact that there's penetration of internet, so access to information and ability to push information to people. But a great example was what Tim shared again around 3D printing. That's a perfect example of how we can demonstrate the real value of circular plastic economy on the continent. But the question is, what are we doing and which activities are we seeing that are driving the understanding and adoption of this technological and knowledge domain to create awareness? And how many much more of such can we inspire? And that's the question I would like to leave us with, to say, as we continue to see the growth of the innovation ecosystem, which is driving innovation generally on the continent, but also supporting the emergence of a strong circular plastic economy, that we continue to consider the role of knowledge and technological domains in actually driving real life applications of what we want to see in this area. I think I'll stop my presentation at this point and move it back to the moderator. Thank you.